The Big 12 is wide open, but we'll get some answers this weekend with a top 25 matchup between Texas and Kansas State. Tim Fitzgerald and Chip Brown are here to break down the game. The Longhorns have won 6 straight versus K-State, but it's been a close series. 5 of those wins were decided by 7 points or fewer, and the trend continues this year with Texas favored by 4.5. Conference title hopes on the line here, guys, as Texas and K-State among the 5 teams that are 4-1 in Big 12 play. So it could be an elimination game. K-State trying to go back-to-back in Arlington. Tim, what would a win here do for their season goals?
Well, you pretty much have to win this game if you want to get back to Arlington. K-State kind of dug itself a hole with that loss to Oklahoma State in a very competitive conference. And yeah, all roads to Arlington go through Austin for K-State, and still it's not guaranteed. Basically, if you look at the tiebreakers, K-State probably needs to win out the final 4 games to get back to Arlington, which is a similar situation they were in last year.
Yeah, and for Texas, I mean, everything is on the table. I mean, you go to Alabama, you win that game, you get K-State in Austin. You've got to take advantage of that, and everyone's going to point to Quinn Ewers being out for this game, but no one cares because Texas has the team. They were the preseason favorite to win the Big 12 championship. Every game right now is a championship game, and K-State, I thought coming into the year, was the second best team in this conference. To me, this is the Big 12 showdown for Arlington. So Texas, with or without Quinn Ewers, has to get it done.
Now we have the 2 best defenses in the Big 12 here, both allowing about 16 points a game. K-State has allowed a combined 3 points in its last 2 games. Now the Wildcats face Malik Murphy, coming off a win against BYU in his first career start. Tim, how does K-State continue its defensive momentum here?
Well, it's been a really awakening for Kansas State's defense. They weren't that locked down earlier in the season. They had a bunch of new guys in the back end of that defense, and they were giving up explosive plays. They've stopped that. They've really become more assignment sound, and they've added some speed at corner that has allowed them to run with receivers, which will be critical against some really big athletic receivers for Texas. And it's going to be a crucial matchup, but K-State's defense has been on point, and a big part of that is because the line's been playing better, so it means the defensive backfield doesn't have to cover as long.
Yeah, and for Texas, Jonathan Brooks is going to play a huge role in this game because he has been the balance for this offense. Even when Quinn Ewers was healthy, Jonathan Brooks was the guy to keep the pressure off of the quarterback, and he's going to have to be big in this game. And obviously K-State's run defense has been excellent. You don't want to put too much on Malik Murphy. You don't want him having to throw it 30, 40 times in this game. Last year, Bijan Robinson ran it, 30 times for 209 yards. And this could be a game where Jonathan Brooks has to carry it 30 times because you just don't want to have to get into a position where Malik Murphy has to carry this offense.
We'll look at the flip side now. Will Howard has been incredibly efficient in his last 2 starts, and his backup Avery Johnson has also been getting some snaps. Both are a threat in the run game. Now they face one of the best defensive fronts in the country. Chip, what specific improvements have you seen from the Longhorns year over year that could help them in this matchup?
Well, Texas's defensive line, anchored by Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, have just not allowed designed running plays to beat them. Oklahoma did run for 201 yards. They're the only team that has crested that 200-yard mark, but 113 of those yards were scramble yards from quarterback Dylan Gabriel. So Texas knows what's coming. They know the quarterback run game is coming. They were prepared for that. With Kansas and Jalen Daniels, they were able to shut down Kansas and Jason Bean. But this is a bigger challenge because K-State's offensive line is immense. They're veteran. They are a problem. And this, to me, is the marquee matchup of this game. The K-State offensive line going up against the Texas defensive line.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much they rotate their quarterbacks. Will Howard really took control of the position again last week in his performance against Houston. And if Kansas State needs a little spice in that quarterback run game, you'll see Avery Johnson. I mean, the kid, his first significant playing time against Texas Tech, ran for 5 touchdowns, tied a school record. And he's not a one-trick pony. He can throw it around. He's had some really impressive throws. But this is Will Howard's team. And Will Howard has asserted himself. But the two put together is an interesting combination. And I think something for fans to watch in this game is if K-State uses them on the field together and how they use them. They've only done it briefly against Missouri. They didn't show much in that formation, but I know they have a lot more in store if both quarterbacks are on the field together.
All right, a lot of great matchups in this one, but your key to getting a win, Chip, what is it?
Well, Texas has got to finish drives. I think the most glaring statistic in this game is the fact that Kansas State is number 2 in the country at finishing drives with touchdowns. They've converted 30. They've had 40 red zone trips, 33 touchdowns. Texas only 33 red zone trips, but only 16 touchdowns. They came up empty on 3 trips inside BYU's red zone last week, and they came up short after having first and goal against Oklahoma. This has got to get solved. Steve Sarkisian's got too much firepower on offense to be limping in the red zone.
Well, that's an interesting thing about Texas, because Kansas State has the second best red zone defense in terms of not giving up touchdowns. I think it's at a 30% clip, but somehow Michigan's number 1 in that stat. I'm not sure how they're so much better than everyone else. And for Kansas State, you got to get some bit of running game. You have to be able to run the ball in a basic way so that Texas has to account for it. Because without the running game, Kansas State really does struggle in the passing game. It's got to be complementary football for Kansas State. And as we've covered, running the ball against these Longhorns is not easy.
All right, every week is a championship game at this point, as Chip says, and it definitely feels that way. Chip and Tim, thanks so much. And for more on the game, be sure to check out gopowercat.com and Horns247 for all your K-State and Texas football and recruiting news all season long.